Hey guys! Today I want to do a review of a custom longsword from Peter Regenyei. But first a little backstory. You may remember a while ago that I did a review of this sword. This is the I-beam from Valiant Armory. It's patterned after the Angus Trim I-beam, however the weight on this sword is very different from the Angus Trim versions. It is very blade heavy, and for that reason the balance and weight is a bit excruciating. I've come to calling this my weight training sword. I did a review comparing this to the Angus I-Trim where I made these notes, basically. After a while of using this sword, I decided it was time to get something better. Something closer in weight to an Angus Trim I-beam, or just something better balanced in general. I'd been using my Regenyei fader for a while, and I really liked the build, I liked the weight, I liked the balance. It's just overall a really great sword. And that's this one right here. And I did a review of that sword just the other day. So I decided to contact Scott Brown and place an order for a custom longsword from Regenyei to basically replace my Valiant Armory I-beam and get a new everyday training sword. I ordered this in November of 2014, and it arrived a few months ago in February of 2015. So from when I placed the order to when I received this was about 4 months, which is pretty good actually for custom longswords. So the options I went with were the Scent Stopper pommel, which is type D pommel, I believe, or type B, I'm not sure. I went with a brown cord wrapped grip. This is the same cord as is on the Regenyei feeder, just brown instead of black. I really liked the feel and I didn't see any need to change that. This is the same crossguard as well that is on my feeder. Again, I liked that crossguard. I liked the look, feel, and the protection it offers, though it is sort of limited in crossguards of this design. And I went with the heavy blade. He has a standard blade which is lighter. This is the heavier blade. And I got a heavier blade because I plan to do a lot of pel work, a lot of sword-on-sword, partner drills, and things like that. And I wanted the more durable, longer-lasting blade on this. One thing that I didn't do, which I regret, is I didn't get a rolled tip. And I actually didn't know that you could get a rolled tip until I looked at the site about a month after I received this sword and saw that it was an option. The rolled tip is a lot like the tip that's on the feeder that I have, and it makes the sword a lot safer for thrusting. So in the limited fencing that I've done with this, the limited sparring I've done with this sword, I mainly avoid the thrust because this tip is somewhat concerning. It is thick enough that it should prevent any serious accidents, and this sword does flex enough in the thrust to make it reasonably safe. But I may actually send this back to Regenyei or get a smith in the United States to fix that and roll the tip of this sword just to make it safer. That is an option you can get from Regenyei, I just wasn't aware of it. And I'll put a link on the bottom that, where's the bottom? There's the bottom. That will basically take you to Regenyei's custom longsword order page. You will have to translate the page because it is in Polish, I believe, by default. But it'll show you all the different options that you can get. You basically have different options for the pommel, few different options for the grip, different options for the crossguard, and different options for the blade. He really lets you customize the blade to just what you want. And this is, in fact, just what I want. The blade, though this is the heavier one, is much less blade heavy than the Valiant Armory I-beam that I was using. The balance and weight, much like the feeder, is just right on. This sword feels great. Whether I'm doing partner drills, whether I'm doing forms, whether I'm just bashing on a pel, this sword feels really good in the hand. The balance is nice. It's just solid. Another solid sword from Regenyei, really. File that past again. Now the edges are not as thick as my Angus Trim I-beam. Well, as the Angus Trim I-beam or the Valiant I-beam, actually. These seem to be about, I would say, 2 millimeters thick. I have to get some calipers and check. but the other ones were between 5 millimeters all the way down to 3 or 4 millimeters, I believe. So the I-beams have much thicker edges than the Regenyeis do. And that's sort of a negative to me, because I like to have wider edges on training swords to make them safer, basically. Even the feeder that he makes, hold on, has a very thick edge. I think it's around 3 to 4 millimeters the entire length of the blade. And so this one being thin was sort of a surprise. And while it is a thick enough rolled edge to be safe for most things, I still think that it could be a little thicker for sparring and for partner drills and everything. Alright, and some statistics on this. The grip is about, look it up, it's about 10 inches on the money, 10 inches long. The blade is just about exactly 3 feet long. And let me just make sure I had these numbers right, sorry. Yes, the blade is 91 centimeters from the crossguard to the tip, which is about 35.8 inches or 3 feet. The grip is 27 centimeters long, or again about 10 inches. And the sword weighs just around 3 pounds. I haven't been able to get a scale and precisely measure it yet. However, his standard longsword is 1,366 grams, or 1.3 kilograms, which is about 3 pounds. So, right about the average weight of a sword that I've used so far. They all seem to fall somewhere between low 3.0 pounds to about 4 pounds. 4 pounds and up is a pretty heavy sword, to be honest. So, yeah. Again, just excellent work from Peter Regenyei. Very well made, very well balanced. The only issues I really have are the edges could be thicker, and the tip I should have gotten rolled. That was my bad. I didn't know it was an option. I definitely would have gotten the tip rolled if I'd known. So that's my bad, but the thicker edges, I'm not sure if that's something I could order from Regenyei, or if that's something he, wouldn't be willing to do. For the most part, he's very good at fulfilling whatever you want done. He would, if I made that suggestion, he may actually make a custom one for me with thicker rolled edges if I wanted. Other than that, so yes, I would actually like to compare this sword to a few different types. I've basically compared it to the I-beam here by saying that it is much closer in weight to the Angus trim I-beams. It is well balanced. The I-beams all have a very thick fuller and also a wider blade in general. This is a much thinner, almost you could say more realistic blade. The blade really looks and feels very much like a sharp sword's blade. However, it has, of course, got thicker edges, and it has a very dull, rounded tip. So other than that, almost a real sword. This is really great. And if I'm being honest, I would wholeheartedly order this with a sharp blade, and it would be an amazing cutter, for sure. I mean, a great dedicated cutting sword. Yes, just another difference there is that the pommel is hot peened, whereas the Angus trim I-beam and the Valiant I-beam have a hex nut. So that could, and you could take that either way. I have my reservations about both systems. The hex nut, it feels like the grip will come loose all the time and require you basically that you have to tighten up this hex nut every so often. And you'll notice on this blade that after a while, the hex nut doesn't quite line up, so you have to actually start moving the pommel to get this hilt tight. And I don't like that, because now, as you can see, the pommel is not in line with the crossguard or the blade. So I can no longer rely on the shape of the pommel or the direction of the pommel for my edge alignment or anything. So that's one of the things I don't like about the hex nut system. The peening system I like, because it keeps everything nice and tight. However, I am concerned that after a long enough time, if this hilt does start to loosen up, I have no way of tightening it. I have no way to address it myself. I would actually have to go to a smith and either get this, tightened up and re-peened, or, find a way to basically sandwich something to keep everything tight. I don't foresee that really happening because, again, for the past 3 months, I've given this heavy, heavy, heavy abuse, and it has stood up to it without feeling any different. I mean, the hilt is still completely solid with absolutely no loose or shaking parts or anything. The edge has taken quite a beating, as you can see. And let me see if I can get this to focus. But even though it has taken a beating, I've had to do very little maintenance on it. It seems to take chips and dings quite well. And unlike some of the other training swords I've used, it doesn't develop, chainsaw teeth after a lot of use. It's very good steel. Good, well-tempered steel, honestly. And this is closer in length to the Angus trim longswords. Let me just put these tip to tip here, and you can see this one is a little taller because it looks like it's actually just the pommel. They seem to the bottom of the grip comes to about the same height, the crossguards come to about the same, and the blades match up pretty evenly. So this is a much better sword for me to use in class when the majority of the students are using swords of this length. That does mean that if you go up against a feeder with one of these swords, you're going to be at a range disadvantage. You're going to have about 3 or 4 inches less of reach. So again, this should be paired with other I-beams or long swords of similar length, rather than feeders, which are much longer. Though, I will admit, it's fun to go up against someone using a feeder with this sword, because you have to get yourself into that mindset of, how am I going to sneak around this guy? How am I going to compromise his range and get in range where I can hit him? Anywhere I can hit him, he can definitely hit me. So I'm going to have to be sneakier, and it's fun. We definitely mix sword lengths a lot when we spar in class, and we have a mix of people who are different heights as well. So all these things add that nice variable into your combat, so you never quite know what to expect. Alright. So yes, that is the Peter Regenyei custom longsword. The standard longsword, which I'll also link down on the site, basically comes with the round pommel that you see on the feeder, the black wrapped grip. You actually might do a leather one, I believe. There's a leather option as well. The standard crossguard, which is, again, my preference, and the light blade is what you'll get on the standard, if you just get the standard longsword with no custom options. And again, if you do get the custom, there's about 4 options for each, well, except for the blade. There's 2 options for the blade, 2 options for the crossguard. There's 4 material options for the grip, and then you can get a range of different colors if you like. And then I think there's 4 different pommels as well. I'll link to the custom longsword ordering page at the bottom of this video. I ordered this from Scott Brown with HEMA Supplies. Again, Scott is the US contact for Regenyei and also Polish sparring gloves. Scott was awesome the entire time, and again, I placed that order with him in November of 2014, and I got the sword in February of 2015. So about 4 months round trip time from placing the order with Scott to the blade arriving at my house, which is great. I'll post a link to his Facebook as well. And yeah, this is the Peter Regenyei custom longsword. If you have any questions, please add them and I will answer them right away. Thanks for watching.